Warning, the following content may contain elements that are not suitable for some audiences. Viewer discretion is advised. Every human has their breaking point, the hair that breaks the camel's back. Some of us are fortunate enough to be born in environments surrounded by loving friends and family, sheltered and protected by the harsh realities that exist in this callous and cold world. There are others, however, that are born into this world in environments and situations that can lead them to make terrible and oftentimes deadly decisions. Sadly, a lot of these tragedies that we'll be speaking of in this video have occurred where a child should feel the safest, in public schools. According to the U.S. Center for Disease Control, firearms were the leading cause of death in 2019 for American children and teens ages 1 to 19. Prematurely taking the lives of nearly 3,400 Americans. Another article from the Washington Post states that since the historic attack at Columbine High School in 1999, nearly 300,000 students have been on campus during a school shooting. With that being said, it's not a stretch to say that America is the school shooting capital of the world right now. However, these sorts of school-related tragedies are not exclusive to the US. Sit back and try to relax as we delve into the deadliest school shootings from around the world. The Susano school shooting, also known as the Susano Massacre, was a school shooting that took place on March 13, 2019, at the Professor Raul Brazil State School in the Brazilian municipality of Susano, São Paulo State. The shooters were Guilherme Tauchi Monteiro and Luis Henrique de Castro. Monteiro lived with his grandparents as his mother had an addiction problem. Both attackers had attended the school. Monteiro allegedly dropped out due to having been bullied the previous year. The attackers had been close friends since childhood. One thing that you'll notice that a lot of these shootings we'll mention today have in common is that they were heavily inspired by the Columbine High School massacre. They hoped the attack would draw more attention than the Columbine massacre. And according to some reports, both perpetrators were influenced by Dogalachan, a far-right image board similar to 4chan, known for inciting terrorism and violence, where they had been asking for weapons and support. On this image board, Luis was known as Lurkacher666 and Guilherme as One Guy 55chan. In a statement from Monteiro's mother, Monteiro had reportedly been bullied because of his acne. A third suspect, not directly involved in the attack, stated that the perpetrators also intended to carry out rapes. The perpetrators might have been influenced by Elephant, a movie about a school shooting in which a murder-suicide between the shooters ends the movie. On the day of the attack, the gunmen shoot and kill Monteiro's uncle, Jorge Antonio Moraes, in a nearby car shop. The two attackers then drove to the school in a white Chevrolet Onix that Castro had legally rented at a localisa. It was about 9:30 a.m. and the students were on break. School cameras recorded Guilherme and Luis entering the school, and Guilherme, while hiding his face from the other students, pulls out a Taurus Model 85 38 caliber revolver. He then turned and began shooting at the students who were just a few feet away from him, before making his way to the patio in search of more potential victims. Luis then appears on camera in a hurry, holding multiple weapons. He was seen carrying a bow that he ended up leaving on the floor, a hatchet, and a Molotov cocktail. He approaches corpses lying on the ground and strikes them with hatchets. 5 students and 2 staffs were killed. The attack also left 11 other students injured. The police arrived 8 minutes after being called, but it was too late. Guilherme shot Luis at point-blank range and then turned the gun on himself and pulled the trigger. Many authorities, politicians, and artists expressed their condolences to the friends and families affected. This attack was the second major school shooting in Brazil after the Realengo massacre in 2011. The Ozar Hatorá School Massacre, France. On the 11th of March 2012, a man by the name of Muhammad Merah would go on a 9-day shooting spree, divided into 3 separate attacks, which left 8 people dead and 5 others seriously injured. The attack on the school was the final of the 3. The Ozar Hatorá School in Toulouse is part of a national chain of at least 20 schools throughout France that primarily educate children of Sephardic, Middle Eastern, and North African descent, according to Wikipedia. According to Merah's brother, who was not involved in any of the violent crimes committed. They were raised in an atmosphere of racism and hatred in their Muslim family. They were raised solely by their mother after the father left when Mera was very young. It was believed that Mera turned to Salafism after being imprisoned as a young man for petty crimes. He was believed to have become increasingly radical after taking 2 journeys to Afghanistan and Pakistan. Some sources have noted connections of Mera's family through his mother's second marriage to a man who was aligned with a terrorist group named Al-Qaeda. Mera also had a history of mental health issues, and this is also believed to have played a factor in the shootings. I also find it worth mentioning that his alleged ties to Al-Qaeda are heavily disputed to this day and are not officially confirmed. The attack happened at about 8 a.m. on March 19, 2012. Mera was seen pulling into the Ozar Hatora school grounds on a Yamaha T-Max motorcycle. Dismounting, he immediately opened fire towards the schoolyard. The first victim was 30-year-old Jonathan Sandler, a rabbi and a teacher. He was shot as he was trying to shield his 2 young sons from the gunman. Mera shot both the boys, 5-year-old Ari and 3-year-old Gabriel, before walking into the schoolyard chasing people into the building. Once inside, he shot at staff, parents, and students. He chased 8-year-old Miriam Monsonego, the daughter of the head teacher, into the courtyard, caught her by the hair, and raised a gun to shoot her. The gun jammed at this point. He then changed weapons to what police identified as a 9mm pistol to a .45 caliber gun and shot the girl in her temple at point blank range. Mera retrieved the scooter and then rode away. On the 22nd of March, 2 days after the attack on the school, the police conducted to what is known to be the biggest manhunt in French history. They eventually tracked him down to his apartment. An hour before the police arrived, Mera calls the French television channel France 24. Mera tells Abba Calando, the editor, that his acts were not only necessary, but that they were to uphold the honor of Islam. According to Calando, he said he was in connection with Al-Qaeda and that what he had done was only the beginning. At 3 o'clock local time, the police tried to arrest Mera, which resulted in a shootout that lasted several hours. Mera was armed with an AK-47, a Sten, a Winchester 12-gauge shotgun, 3 Colt 45s, a 9mm Glock, and a Colt Python 357 Magnum. He remained barricaded in his apartment for 2 days. The officers attempted to negotiate with Mera, even resorted to bringing his mother to try and convince him, but she refused to get involved because she knew her son was too far gone. The police resorted to throwing grenades inside of the apartment in order to scare Mera into submission, but this didn't seem to work and he eventually stopped responding. Eventually, a team of 15 specially trained officers made the decision to enter his apartment using a technical device and video equipment to inspect the different rooms. It seems that all traces of Mera had vanished. That is, until the device was introduced to the bathroom. Mera had barricaded himself inside. Once Mera realizes what is happening, he decides to emerge and begins yet another violent shootout with the officers. The officers promptly return fire while snipers attempted to neutralize him. Mera, in a last-ditch attempt to cause more harm, jumps out of his window, guns blazing. This was the perfect opportunity for the sniper, and they wasted no time and ended Mera's rampage with a clean shot to the head. The Kirch Polytechnic College Massacre, Russia. On the 17th of October 2018, Vladislav Rozlyakov shot and killed 20 people and wounded 70 others before turning the gun on himself. Vlad was an 18-year-old fourth-year student at the school. When Vlad was 10, his parents split up due to his father sustaining a head injury and becoming more physically abusive towards him and his mother. Growing up, Vlad never showed any interest in school and had very low grades. He didn't have many friends. He soon developed an interest in weapons and video games. In 2015, he decided he would join the college and study to be an electrician. This is where he developed an interest in explosives, and he even started bringing a knife to class with him. It was a bayonet. His mother was a member of the Jehovah's Witness and limited his social activity heavily. She would regularly search his pockets and refuse to allow him to go to the theater or use a computer until he turned 16. A few days before the incident, he was talking to his neighbors and stated that he did not believe in an afterlife. And a day before the attack, His neighbors noticed Vlad burning the Bible along with his mobile phone and some other books. According to an ex-girlfriend, Vlad told her that he had lost faith in humans when his classmates started bullying him for being different, and in the days leading to the incident, he discussed being bullied. He also discussed a lack of purpose in his life, mass shootings, and suicide on social media. Apparently, he was in a few online communities dedicated to serial killers. And it's also been speculated that Vlad's crimes were inspired by Eric Harris, one of the perpetrators of the Columbine High School massacre. Surveillance footage of the incident shows Vlad wearing black pants and a white t-shirt with Nenavich, Russian for hatred, printed on it. The outfit was similar to that of Eric Harris. On September 8, 2018, Vlad purchased a shotgun legally at a gun shop, and on October 13th, he purchased 150 rounds. He then spends the next 3 days preparing for the attack. Vlad enters the grounds of the school at around 11:45 a.m. and began shooting at everyone. He also detonated a large nail bomb during the chaos, but no deaths from the bomb were reported. The shooting continued for 15 minutes before the arrival of the first responders. Vlad then made his way to the library where he turned the shotgun on himself and pulled the trigger. This incident is considered the deadliest attack in the former Soviet Union. And as I mentioned in the beginning, he killed 20 people and wounded 70 others. The Kauhajoki School Massacre, Finland. This shooting took place on September 23, 2008. At the Kauhajoki School of Hospitality. The school is owned by Seinäjoki Municipal Federation of Education. The name of the man responsible was Matti Juhani Sari. Sari was a second-year student studying for his undergraduate degree in hospital management. This shooting was the second school shooting that year, the other being the Jokela school shooting where 9 people died, including the perpetrator. Growing up, Sari was suffering from numerous health and mental issues. His brother died when he was 17 years old. This devastated him. Sari was known to be a very shy and sensitive child. According to his psychologist, Peter Langman, Sari showed signs of avoidant personality disorder and later possibly schizotypal personality disorder. He would also find himself being the target of bullying in his earlier school years. This bullying subsequently contributed to him dropping out of his classes. At some point after becoming an adult, he enlisted in the Finnish army, but would only last a month before being discharged. A friend of Sari's reported that he had been seeing a psychologist in the months before the shooting, and he was obsessed with guns. He also mentioned that Sari would say things like, "I want to kill as many people as possible." It was discovered that Sari had a YouTube account where he uploaded videos of him firing a handgun at a local shooting range. Finnish police had been informed about the shooting in an anonymous tip-off on the Friday before the attack. The police searched his home on September 22nd, a day before the incident, but could not find a reason to arrest him as he held a temporary weapons permit and did not have a criminal record. On the day of the attack, armed with a P-22 and several Molotov cocktails, Sari entered the school through the basement. There were about 200 students and staff assembled inside. At around 10:40 a.m., Sari began shooting into the exam room while the students were taking their exams. Sari encountered very little resistance, and the massacre was conducted fairly quickly. He had planned this shooting for 6 years. He left the room at least once to reload in the hallway, and according to eyewitnesses, one of the teachers attempted to prevent him from returning, but was unsuccessful and was killed as a result. 9 people were killed in the exam room, and the 10th victim died in the hallway. Another student was shot in the head, but miraculously survived. Sari then began to cover the classroom in petrol, a very flammable substance, and set the room on fire, subsequently damaging the bodies of some of the victims, making it very difficult to identify them. 8 of the victims were female, the 9th a male, and the 10th was a member of the staff, presumably the teacher who tried to stop Sari from returning to the classroom. The police arrived shortly after the shooting, but when they attempted to enter the college, they were immediately greeted with a hail of bullets from Sari. They were forced to retreat and resorted to calling for heavier backup. Armored vehicles began to arrive on scene, and they attempted to enter the building through the main corridor, but decided to call off this assault due to the black smoke coming from the building. The police eventually evacuated the school. Sari remained inside of the school for some time after the evacuation. 2 days after the killings, a friend of Sari, named Rauno, told the local news that he received a call from him confessing to being responsible for the shooting. He mentioned that Sari's voice was very calm while saying he just wanted to say goodbye. Sari was eventually found alive by police in a pool of his own blood after shooting himself in the head. He was taken to the Tampere University Hospital, where he eventually succumbed to his injuries. This was the deadliest school shooting in Finland's history. The Dunbar Massacre. This shooting took place at Dunbar Primary School near Stirling, Scotland, United Kingdom, on March 13, 1996, leaving 16 children dead along with one teacher and injuring 15 others. The person behind this crime was Thomas Watt Hamilton. Thomas was born on May 10, 1952, in Glasgow. Although not too much is said about his childhood, it is said that his father abandoned him and his mother when he was just a baby to be with another woman. In order to avoid scandal, she gave Thomas to a childless couple who took him in and adopted him. The couple went by the names James and Catherine. They pretended to be his parents, and his mother became his older sister. Neighbors of the old couple would mention that Thomas would regularly humiliate James. He would urinate in his drinks and push him around. James would eventually go on to state that Thomas wanted everything his own way, so he left him to it. I'm not sure if this was before or after he left James and Catherine's home, but he became head of several youth clubs and was briefly a scout leader of the Stirlingshire troop. This is where he encountered some huge issues. Thomas became subject to many complaints to the police regarding inappropriate behavior towards young boys, including claims that he had taken photographs of boys swimming half naked and hanging them on his wall. Though he was never convicted for these allegations, they would lead to the stripping of his scout leadership and would subsequently damage his reputation among the community. I can't go too much further into the details of this situation because it goes much further and in greater detail, and I simply don't have the time to put it in this video. Let's just say that some of the parents who believed these allegations would go so far as to report him and his operation to Queen Elizabeth II. It can be argued that what happened next was Thomas's way of getting revenge on the community that dragged his name through the mud and labeled him Spock the pervert. It was a cold morning on March 13th, 1996. Thomas Hamilton, aged 43, was seen scraping the ice off his car before hopping inside and driving off. He arrives to the grounds of the Dublin Primary School, parks next to a telegraph pole in the parking lot, and after cutting the cables at the bottom of the telegraph pole, he starts making his way to the school building. He enters through the northwest side of the school where the gymnasium was. He was armed with 4 legally owned handguns, 2 of them being Smith & Wesson .357 Magnum revolvers, and the other 2 being 9mm Browning HP pistols. He was also carrying a whopping 743 rounds of ammunition. Inside the gym was a class of 20 Primary 1 students preparing for a physical education lesson in the presence of 3 adult members. Before entering the gym, Hamilton fires 2 shots into the assembly hall and the girls' bathroom. He then begins to shoot rapidly and randomly, hitting the PE teacher in her arm and chest. He continues shooting into the gymnasium. Gwen Mayer, a Primary 1 teacher, was shot and killed instantly. He continues his assault and fires 29 more shots with 1 pistol, killing 1 child and injuring several others. This rampage continues with him firing randomly at everything he saw until he was satisfied. He then pulls out his last gun, puts it in his mouth, and pulls the trigger, killing himself. The whole attack only lasted 4 minutes, but I can only imagine how long those 4 minutes felt for the victims. This incident was most likely what led to the strict gun laws that are now present in the UK today, and is considered the deadliest mass shooting in British history. And that is the end of the video. Thank you so much if you've made it this far. I'd like to start off the outro by sending my most sincere condolences to all of the families of the fallen victims. This will be the first installment of Stank Reality, a new video series that I'm going to be working on simultaneously with the original Reddit series. I hope this video doesn't get taken down. I worked really hard on it, and it is for education purposes, and all the images I use should fall under fair use, being that this is a research essay style video. I really hope it doesn't get taken down, but if it does, we'll just keep it pushing, you know. Do me a favor, subscribe, hit the like button, pay your respects in the comments. Thank you so much, and have a good night.